Of what the singularity is. I can start with a quote about that, just so that everybody has a common. And I'm using Roger's definition of this. The singularity, a point at which man and his machines will together grasp man's destiny to fully and intelligently create his world and himself in the most intelligent and beneficial way possible. And the title of this book, the subtitle of the book, is The Singularity is Near When Humans Transcend Biology. So in the merger of man and machines, part of Kurzweil's pre-assumption is that biology is something that we can or should or transcend, move beyond. So my commentary is about that claim. Part of the picture that Kurzweil presents is that this interaction between humans and machines is inevitable. And it will change the species, it will change the way we interact with each other, and it'll change our definition of what it is to be human. I respond to that from a number of different points, some of them as a scientist who studies cognition, some of them as a linguist who studies the etymology of words, and mostly as a humanist myself. And so I have 5 disparate points, and I'm going to go through them at about a minute each. First is addressing the comment on computers interfacing with the human mind, and whether that's a threat that we should necessarily be cautious about, try to stop, try to enforce, try to react to, or try to monitor in any way that we can. And I'm going to read just a statement here. This technological advancement provides us with support for knowledge, reminders, provides immediate access to facts that can help make us better informed decision makers and help us accomplish our goals more quickly, even to accomplish goals we previously didn't have the capability to imagine. And I directed your attention to an iPhone, but what this quote is about for me is about learning to read as a child. When you learn to read as a child, you have an exterior support for knowledge. You have reminders. And as you grow as a child, you change who you are, how you think, what your goals are for your life, and how you can become what you're going to become. Reading, as a technological advancement, has been a basic human right, and it has been opposed for minority populations, including people who are in the majority, such as women, by keeping technological advancements from subsets of the people. And so in considering Kurzweil's claims, one point that I'd like you to keep in mind is that technology isn't the threat. It's lack of democracy or lack of access, equal access to the technology that's a threat. A second point, I'd like to talk about 2 technologies just as examples for interfaces between the human mind and goals. One is Kurzweil's own text-to-speech system. So at a point in the 1950s, and Becky can help me a lot with this for my chronology, computers were working with the puzzle of how to get a computer to do human language. And at a certain point for code breaking, it seemed like computers were able to solve puzzles that humans were not able to keep up with that problem-solving ability. And that in a very short span of time, computers would be able to speak. That dream didn't happen for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years, until people started laughing at the concept. Basically, we could never get a computer to pass the Turing Test, to be able to speak the way we do, especially for the depth of innuendo and metaphor that we convey, the multiple meanings on multiple levels, that a computer would never be able to do that. What Kurzweil himself invented was a text-to-speech system that was able to read text aloud. And to do that, you just have to master the basic principles of letter recognition, word recognition, lexical access to a lexicon, morphology, syntax, and phonology, the sounds of things. In normal human language, a brain does that really easily, and in fact a 1-year-old can do it very, very well. darn hard computational problem. This man could pull it off. He got the problem solved. It took him a while, but it had taken thousands of scholars, thousands and thousands of hours to try to master that problem. And he's the one who pulled it off. He knows technology, he knows what he's doing. And if he has visions of the future that some readers see as grandiose or far-fetched, I think they're worth considering. So one is this, based on his text-to-speech system, it was something he invented to help the blind. And so that's a very noble goal in itself. He chose to use technology to assist humanity. We're lucky he's not an evil genius of some kind. And he also has visions for what we can do with virtual reality. And I have a larger comment on that I'm just going to briefly explain. There's a way that you can approach the problem of virtual technology to solve problems of a person having anxiety disorders so that they overcome their fear of elevators or their phobia of spiders. And there's another way that you can use virtual reality so that you can see the world through different eyes. And you can use that technology to overcome racism, sexism, or seeing an other as being too different from you. And maybe you've experienced this in the movie Avatar, that you identify with a human-like alien and their abilities, even though you don't have those abilities yourself. That again is an application of technology, virtual reality, that allows us to extend our vision of the world and make us more human, much more human. And so technology isn't a threat. It's something that helps us realize our humanity. In fact, I think the greatest puzzle to technological advancement is what we choose to do with it. If I gave you, let's say, $30,000 right now, just tossed it out on the table, and said, what are you going to do with this? I would say that a certain percentage would be spent on making yourself more beautiful, making yourself more popular, better groomed, better accessible, better technologically advanced, get yourself a better computer, and on entertainment. I would like us, as we consider these questions, to keep in mind noble goals. We have the power to do anything, and I think we have a responsibility not to waste it. Third, I'd like to go through a quote from Kurzweil. I have it marked right here. The singularity will allow us to transcend the limitations of our biological bodies and brains. We will gain power over our fates. Our mortality will be in our own hands. We will be able to live as long as we want. And I would like to change one letter of that. One letter. Our morality will be in our own hands, where it has always been and always should be. If we use these technologies, we should keep in mind that that extending life isn't as important as living a good life, and I think that's something that Arendt and her writings contribute to. A second quote that I have here, this is the fourth point, our quote on designing human brains. Kurzweil proposes that we can redesign our intelligence and our human brains. And Ray Kurzweil says that we're less than 3 decades away from reverse engineering the human brain on a computer and creating smarter than human intelligence. And I would just like to keep in mind as we go through this discussion that we are the ones that control our definition of intelligence. We control our definition of what it is to be smart or smarter than a computer. If we invent a program to carry out legal decision-making and a forum of justice to avoid the kinds of biases that are known to occur in our human legal system, biases against race, biases against sex, even height of a person, whether a person is attractive or not, all of these things are shown to influence human decision-making ability. That's a poor way to run the justice system. And if we could invent an algorithm that would create a better justice system, that algorithm would still work within our definitions. If we create a definition of justice or intelligence that involves maximal constraint satisfaction and not a greater good, we have to live with that definition of intelligence or morality. The last point that I'd like to make is regarding etymology. And that's etymology of a word based on science and conscience. So within the word conscience, science is there. As you know, con can mean against, contrary, contradict. It's actually contra. Con, in its original etymology, is with. And so conscience means with science or with intelligence. As we advance along the question of what it is to be intelligent, we can't neglect what conscience we imbue that intelligence with, and that we make our decisions, not just with raw intelligence, but with a sense of wisdom. And for me, that's the definition of what it is to be human. To have a sense of integrity in the past, a sense of a vision of the future, and to behave in a way that holds those both in mind as we make decisions about how to act.